Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to April's full council meeting. Brought a special guest with me tonight. My son is here with us, so best behaviour, please. So you don't feel the youngest one here, Tim, anymore. First one on the agenda is apologies for absence.
Just a point of correction. Adam Farley is the youngest councillor.
Apologies for absence.
I have received apologies from councillors Heinrich, Housden, Fredericks, Perry Warnes, Toy, Yassimi and Stockton.
Thank you. Moving on to the minutes of the 9th and 23rd of February. Are we happy to take them on block? Would you wish to go through them page by page? Oh, Councillor Fitzpatrick, Tom.
Thanks, Chairman. It's page 57, which is the council recorded votes, agenda item 10, recommendation 10, council tax on the 23rd. I'm shown here as voting for, but I actually voted against, and that's evidenced by the recording on YouTube, 1 hour, 54 minutes and 8 seconds in. I'm clearly voted against, and that was repeated by the monitoring officer. Could that record be changed to show that I voted against, please?
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Fitzpatrick. Do we have any other amendments of the meetings? No. So if we take a vote on the council meeting held on the 9th of February. Oh, sorry.
Sorry,
Yep.
we have one other amendment.
Councillor Fredericks is recorded as voting against, and she should have be recorded as voting for. So it looks like there's a mismatch there. Thank you.
Lovely. Right, so we'll take the meeting on the 9th of February, pages 1 to 15. Those in favour? Any against or abstentions? Nothing. Unanimous. Yep. And then pages 15 to 57, which is the meeting on the 23rd of February. Those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Just one abstention. Thank you. Lovely, thank you for that. Item 3 on the agenda is items of urgent business. I don't believe we have any. Item 4 on the agenda, refer you to pages 59 to 64 about declarations of interest. Does anyone have any declarations of interest? Councillor Shires.
It's non-pecuniary, but I am also a member of Norfolk County Council, sorry, with relation to item 10.
We do have other members of the county council. I don't know if they wish to. Councillor Dixon, Councillor Holmes, Councillor Penfold, Councillor Vardy, Councillor Fitzpatrick. Thank you. Item 5, Chairman's communications. A couple of things to talk about, but first of all, I'll pass over to Councillor Grove Jones, who attended an event on my behalf.
Oops, I've lost my little. Oh, there we are. Hello, hello. Yes, I had a very pleasant afternoon at the Freedom Church, attending their inauguration of a new deacon. They made me very welcome. There's only a small congregation. I think there are about 30, 40 people there. The highlight for them seemed to be the singing, which was very good. And it was beautifully decorated, the church, and they did make me so welcome, and the food was spectacular. Plenty of very nice cakes, etc. And they're a very supportive group. They support each other, they support people in the local area. So I was very pleased to attend that. It was a very pleasant couple of hours.
So at the end of March, I can't remember the exact date now, apologies. I was invited because of my love of running, obviously not real ale element of this, by the owner of Moongazer Ale, who are based in our district at Hindringham, where the gentleman there was pushing a beer barrel from Hindringham to St Bart's Hospital in London for It's On The Ball, which is a cancer charity, and St Bart's is the regional centre that helps deal with that. And it was done over 9 days, pushing about 20 miles a day, which was no mean feat, pushing 75 kilos of beer barrel along. I attended on the first day and walked about 5 miles through the Fakenham area to support David through his quest. And myself and young Oscar met him in London at the end of his achievement. And so far, he's raised about £17,600 for the charity. So good achievement all round. And that's still open until the 30th. If anyone wants to make any donations, it's on their website and Twitter feeds, etc. So that's quite a nice little event to take part in. And this Saturday just gone, myself and a few councillors and the chain gangs attended How Hill for my chairman's afternoon tea. And for those who don't know the area, who have never been, and I haven't for probably 20-something years from when I was at school, it's an absolutely stunning venue and a real hidden gem for North Norfolk. And we raised just over £300 for the chairman's charities on the day, which was quite nice. And that's it for chairman's communications. Thank you. Item 6, over to Councillor Adams for leaders' announcement.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Chairman. First of all, I wanted to reflect on the end of the tree planting season. Huge progress over the autumn and winter period, and we are extremely grateful to the many volunteers who planted over 71,000 trees, I believe. Our climate and environmental policy manager sorry. Thank you to all of the councillors who got out there and planted trees, and I'm very grateful to the groups in North Reps and the Parish Council of Bodham for letting me help with their own projects. In the same period of time, we have also been successful in gaining £300,000 for additional changing places facilities in North Norfolk. So I thank the Director of Resources and his team for their efforts. The government has correctly recognised the scale of our ambitions to improve facilities for visitors and residents, but also this authority's ability to deliver what it promises. And I thank Councillor Spagnola for the initial challenge to the authority some years ago now, which has led to a significant strategic change on and a difference which we can already reflect on. We look forward to the completion of new facilities in Fakenham and Wells, and certainly hope to deliver facilities in Salem and Holt before long. Another team within the council who have been recognised due to their capabilities over the course of recent weeks are, of course, the coastal management team, and the announcement in late March that North Norfolk would be one of 2 areas in the country where the Coastal Accelerator Transition Programme, have I got that correct? CTAP, which could result in millions of funding to find ways of ensuring businesses and community settings continue to exist in their communities, and residents are given the support they need to stay within the localities, within their localities, if they are impacted by coastal erosion. And I hope properties within their reach financially. We already have a significant amount of expertise here, and I hope the country can learn from what we do here and, of course, in East Riding. Our response to the people coming to North Norfolk who have been impacted by the invasion of Ukraine has obviously been ongoing. Our Ukrainian community support work has, of course, started, and she's supporting a number of people now living in the district. I understand we now have checked 39 properties, and over 70 people are expected in North Norfolk, but not yet here. We know, of course, people are experiencing significant delays and issues related to getting visas. But I'd also like to remark that we are grateful to the community groups and clubs such as North Norfolk Hockey Club, Cromer Lawn Tennis and Squash Club, and others who have looked to see what they could do to support these people. It's very welcome. Discussions have continued around county deals, but it is hard to really point to any significant progress since we last met. I hope for the whole of Norfolk, in fact, we are able to realise a good agreement. In March, I attended the District Council Network mini conference, and the message was very much that we risk regionalisation of local government rather than localisation, and local is better. We have also begun to look at both the Levelling Up Fund and the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. It's certainly a good opportunity for us to work towards some fantastic projects with the Levelling Up Fund, but we are more disappointed with the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. A significant amount of work may be done for relatively small reward for North Norfolk over a period of years, and we don't feel the fund recognises some of the challenges here in North Norfolk. In terms of the work of the council, which is upcoming, I'm particularly pleased that we are seeing the emergence of the quality of life strategy. The Assistant Director for People Services put in a great deal of work to produce the work which is going to committee shortly. And there are, of course, lots of individual threads and projects leading from within the action plan, ranging from the environment, community, partnership working, and even play equipment. I have enjoyed meeting with town council representatives and other local members in both Stalham and Holt. I certainly hope to progress some of the make some progress with local concerns over the water supply and sewage, which we were discussing there in Stalham, but certainly recognise the ambitions locally for a bigger project. It's very good to see the Stalham Town Council, the way they are progressing. According to the Holt Town Clerk, we walked 4.5 miles during our visit there, and so taking in much of the town centre in key areas. And going back, in fact, to what I said on play, I think we certainly recognise the need for our visit for a flagship play facility to the south of Holt. So we are looking forward in the next few days and weeks to meeting with Fakenham and Cromer Town Councils to discuss our proposals in those locations, and we look forward to bringing the conversation here, back here in due course. Finally, I wanted to highlight the Mammoth Marathon, which is coming up on May the 15th. So I believe, if I'm right in saying, it's our first road marathon in North Norfolk since 1990. And the leisure services team have worked extraordinarily hard alongside the North Norfolk beach runners to get this planned, for which we, all of the members, are very grateful. And we certainly would wish to wish everyone taking part good luck. So thank you, Chairman. That's all I wish to say.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Moving on to item 7, public questions and statements. No, we have none. No. Item 8, portfolio reports. You'll also note there was an additional report from Councillor Kershaw sent round, and Councillor Gay was sent round today. And there are copies here if anyone wants them. So. You're all aware of the rules on this session with regards to questions which we've asked. So the first one we'll go to is Councillor Adams.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't wish to say anything further to the report. I've highlighted one or two things in my announcements, but I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Do you have any questions? Yes, Councillor Cushing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Key topic for the whole council, indeed many in North, is around nutrient neutrality and the edict from Natural England, which has created significant constraints on the development approval across significant areas of this district. It's having an immediate effect actually in my ward, for which contains the Fakenham urban extension, because there is a planning application to revise some of the matters agreed in the outline planning application. And I understand from Officer Rowson, that's actually being potentially put on hold and queried. Now, that development is meant to start, I believe, in the autumn with the building of the roundabout on the A148. I noticed this evening that Officer Rowson did actually send an update to all members on that, but I just wondered if you, I know work has been underway. I know John Fuller, leader of South Norfolk District Council, convened a meeting to sort of coordinate the response on behalf of Norfolk. But I just wonder if you can tell us what the next, any more information on the next step in terms of at least getting perhaps small development applications underway, and then put our views in terms of the larger scale applications such as the ones of the Fakenham Urban Extension.
Thank you, Councillor Cushing. Yeah, I think you're correct to answer the question. I think it's a frankly depressing situation. You know, you may have seen I reflected on a situation on the front cover of the EDP. The lady found out on April Fool's Day and thought it was an April Fool's Day joke. It's an example, though, of where this is affecting normal people, because that was a single time entrant into the planning system, if you like. I don't think she would, or ever has submitted a planning application before, would plan to do so in the future, but it's a subdivision of a property. And of course, we will see the impacts on builders, merchants, builders, tradespeople, and others, of course, that are trying to get into properties. As you may have seen, we are trying to progress applications as far as we can. We will continue to do that. And we've got a member session coming up, and we are also challenging the government on this, as you may have seen in your inbox this evening with the letters that we will send. In fact, I believe we have now sent them. I can't answer specifically around the proposals in Fakenham, but very happy to have a conversation offline and deal with it in further detail, of course, alongside the portfolio holder and relevant staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fitch, any more questions? Sorry. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The leader of the council did touch upon this in his leader's announcements, but I just want to ask in relation to the support for Ukrainian refugees, whether there are any targets being set anywhere by government, and whether cooperation is advancing between this district council and the county council in this area. I just wanted to ask what, if you like, what the future holds for this very, very important and vital support that this district council is offering to our refugees coming from Ukraine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, absolutely, you're right. It's a very important thing we're doing. I think we've got, you know, we've got to do everything we can to support these people coming over. They're of course coming over in perhaps smaller numbers than we expected. There are of course problems with the visa system, which have been well publicised. I think that our level of dialogue, both with the county council and other district councils, has been good. We are meeting very frequently. As you've heard, I think we expect over 70 individuals. I don't have the precise breakdown in my mind of children and adults, but you know, we're certainly already supporting people, and I think we're equipped to do that in North Norfolk. We're equipped to do that at the district council, and I'm sure we'll do a very good job of it. Of course, our staff member, Ukrainian community support officer, is in post and already helping people. I think that was a very good move to make. Obviously getting someone with the relevant language skills, making sure people can access the support, the services, perhaps the education they need. But people in North Norfolk continue to be so generous and, you know, offering their homes. We're certainly hearing from people that are frustrated that things haven't progressed for them. You know, they're waiting for people to arrive. And as I highlighted, we're seeing some fantastic generosity from community groups and clubs as well. So I hope that goes some way to answer the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fitch.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon. Oh, it's good evening, members, I think, probably now. my report's in front of you. Just a couple of updates, if I may. Overstrand, we've had to actually shut one of the access steps down to the beach at the moment because it's really basically got trashed during the various storms and needs to be replaced. So we've had to shut those, which is unfortunate because it had to be shut over the Easter period. We've run into a problem with sand martins again in respect of Haysborough. People may remember that sand martins do actually nest as you look at the ramp to the cliff to the right. Previously, we have been able to net them without any problems, but bearing in mind the difficulties that we experienced over sand martins and the sandscaping project, we have now delayed cutting the access ramp. I'm very sorry, Lucy, but we may have to wait until the sand martins go. We are seeking advice from RSPB on that. And obviously, the great big news about the government's decided to give us lots of money. But a word of caution, don't get overexcited. You know, the first thing I got when I went to Overstrand was, oh, does that mean we're going to get, you know, we're now no longer a promontory and we're going to get sea defences? And I'm saying, actually, this is looking at what we can do to help communities that are in trouble through coastal erosion and businesses at long last, because at the moment there hasn't been any funding for businesses in trouble for coastal erosion whatsoever. So it's a huge piece of work. The team are going to have to get some more help, obviously. And as you know, I've just had a couple of weeks break because basically I frazzled myself. I've been stopped for 2.5 years. So I've got to do a proper catch up, and I'll do a fuller report, if I may, at the next full council, Mr. Chairman. But happy to take any questions and hope I can answer them.
Any questions? Councillor Stenton.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I am delighted to note that the government is awarding the council a part of a £36 million investment. I would like, please, to ask if you can elaborate more on the initial steps that will release the funds you mentioned. Thank you.
Well, the first thing we have to do is to actually work up how we are going to do this, and we have been given a sum of money to actually start working it up to actually apply for the further funding. At this stage, I can't actually elaborate on that. It will be taking up very much from what we learnt with the Pathfinder Fund that we finished about 12 years ago, where we looked at properties at risk and caravan park at risk in Haysborough, and basically, to put it bluntly, we moved the caravan park inland, which is just as well, because where the first 3 rows of caravans are now on the beach. And also we demolished some houses and rebuilt replacement dwellings further inland, which is the sort of thing we will be building up upon in the future. But it's very new. We only learnt about it about a month ago. So the team are scratching that. No, they're not scratching their heads. They're pulling everything together, and I can give you more information hopefully next meeting.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Any further questions? No? Lovely. Next is Councillor Hayden. Apologies.
Thank you. Jeremy, I thought I'd caught your eye before I wanted to ask Tim Adams a question. Am I out of time?
Yeah, no, that's fine, because you can ask one question per session, so that's fine.
Tim, thank you for the update on what's happening with regard to the Ukrainian refugee support. Part of that support obviously comes with leadership and personal leadership, and I wondered what individuals from the Cabinet and the Liberal Dem group were doing personally to support them. And I wondered if you'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate or thank our MP for showing leadership in respect of taking in Ukrainian refugee family and supporting them through their difficulties.
Okay. Well, first of all, Councillor Heyman, I thank everyone that has enabled a Ukrainian refugee to come into their homes for the duration of this terrible conflict, and all the support that they are giving them. Besides that, it's not just a matter of putting them in their property and putting them up. It's getting help to ensure that they're in education and getting all the support they need. So all of these people, these individuals are doing so much, and we're very grateful. Myself, obviously, I'm involved with some charity work outside of the council. We in Cromer will be ready to support if needs be. I haven't personally had any call for that, but we've always taken the approach with the charity work in Cromer that we are flexible to the demand. So yeah, I would like to think if that was required, that we certainly would be able to do something in our locality, Greg. But that's as far as I can say, really, for me personally. Thank you.
So I take it that that's a yes, you would congratulate our MP for taking leadership as you've congratulated everyone else, and that the answer to what the Liberal Democrat group are doing as individuals and the cabinet in showing leadership, the answer is no, you're not doing anything, particularly yourselves.
I'm not sure what example you're hoping to take from me personally. I'm obviously in a situation where I live in a 3-bedroom house and I've got a baby on the way. So it's clearly not possible for everyone to offer that sort of support, and I wouldn't try and do that to anyone. But I certainly do thank the MP for that work, for that generosity in giving up space within his home. But that's as far as I can say for me personally. Thank you, Greg.
Councillor Kershaw.
Thank you, Chair. In answer to Councillor Greg Hayman's question, we don't talk about it, but we have on the first day registered 2 double rooms for Ukrainian refugees. We filled in the forms. There was no response from the government. At the suggestion of Lord Richard Dannett, we contacted a charity called Reset, who've been approved by the government. We filled in their forms. We have since written to them 4 times with no response. I then wrote to Duncan Baker, having seen that he'd got he has taken on refugees, to find out if he could give me any help, but he was unable to do so. He just said, "Oh, just keep trying." So that's where we are at the moment. So yes, we are. We don't shout about it, but I thought it was relevant in answer to Councillor Hayman's question.
Thank you. Councillor Penfold.
Yes, I just wanted to pick up Councillor Hayman on a poor choice of words there. I don't think the word congratulate is the right word to use in this situation. We don't congratulate people here for, it's not a competition to take Ukrainian refugees in. So that's an utterly inappropriate use of the word. Thank you.
Moving on. Councillor Fredericks is not present. Do we have any questions that we want registering through full council to receive a reply afterwards? No, thank you. Move on to Councillor Gay. Now you'll note here there is a question that's been submitted in advance by Councillor Rest on advice of officers. It was suggested it's taken in this session, but it does slightly go outside of our normal rules of a single question. Are councillors happy for that to be asked in this session? If not, it can be asked in questions received by members, but I felt in agreement with officers that it would be best here, as this is the section for Councillor Gay. So is there any objection to that? No. Councillor Gay, if you'd like to present your report, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Rest. Yes, this has been revised as one question, and that's the question that I'm working from. I have read Swim England's press release about this topic. The Sky News article arose because Jane Nickerson from Swim England had been lobbying MPs to ask for extra money for swimming pools and leisure facilities within the nation. So that's how this became a news story in the first place. And this is the picture as I understand it today in response to Councillor Est's question. First of all, the contract with Everon Active refers to the amount of energy used rather than the price per unit of that energy. And this is due to be reassessed under the contract after 2 years. So at the moment, it's a little early to predict running costs. So that is the situation. The contract doesn't actually refer to price, it refers to amount of energy used. The second aspect of this, we haven't been asked for any subsidy as of yet. And in accordance with the first answer, there wouldn't be any evidence yet for anyone to base any such request upon. The third part, which is details of any provisions that Everon Active has in place for such an eventuality. The reef has been programmed to perform vis-a-vis energy in a certain way from the beginning. Now, Everon Active thinks they can improve on that management routine. They think they can find further efficiencies in that. And I should stress that Everon Active, as one of our contractors, is also committed to our net zero strategy and our targets for that, because that's what it means when you do that. Your contractors are supposed to follow on from it. I think I should say finally, and I think Councillor Lloyd might well like to add something at this point, NNDC is doing its utmost to forestall rising costs here for our residents. We've done this in the design of the pool, and you've visited, you know about the solar thermal panels. You know that it is now has an efficiency which very few such facilities in this country can match. But we're also working towards the solar port for that facility. And work on that has begun, and I think it's reached a certain stage that someone else might like to comment on. And I think Councillor Lloyd might like to add something about this in the context of energy efficiency. But that's the best I can do in way of an answer at this moment. But thank you, it is an important issue for us.
Councillor Rest, did you have a supplementary or a reply to that?
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, thank you. That's much appreciated. And I do realise it's obviously an ongoing situation, and hopefully on behalf of the other members, there is some information there which we can all use. But thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gay. Councillor Lloyd, you had your hand up in the middle of that statement. I take it to part to reply to that one.
If that's okay, Chair.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to say it's a great question, and I think it's a question that many councils up and down the country will be pondering over with their in this world of escalating energy costs. I'd just like to say that it, to me, underlines the importance of the climate change agenda on the whole. It's any measures that can reduce energy usage, save money at the same time, as well as limiting carbon emissions. So, and Councillor Gay was totally correct. We're in engineering study stage of a project at the reef. It's looking like a solar port over car parks that many other councils have installed, and will drastically reduce the energy requirement for that facility when it's installed, should the feasibility stack up financially. So yeah, that was all I wanted to say really. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gay, if you'd like to go back to your report now, I guess.
Thank you, Lucy. I think the report is pretty clear. The only thing I would like to say is that the inaugural meeting for the Health and Wellbeing Partnership did take place on Monday afternoon, and I think from the point of view of the council, it all went very well. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Any other questions for Councillor Gay? Lovely. Thank you. Councillor Kershaw.
Thank you, Chair. I apologise for the report coming out electronically a day after the main agenda. It was due to a clash of holidays with officers, but it's before you now. Happy to take questions.
Any questions? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Whilst I think all councillors will agree and accept the merits of the North Walsham Heritage Action Zone, I must admit I'm extremely concerned over the sustainability of business in the short term. It is my understanding that the North Walsham plans have caused much disruption to trade, with one business suffering so much it is now close to folding. I know of the tangible benefits of the scheme moving forward, especially to the economic sustainability of the district. But of course, we need to ensure that existing established businesses receive necessary support in the interim. My question, therefore, is a very simple one. What is this council doing to ensure that businesses in North Walsham are adequately supported through this transition period? Thank you.
Councillor Taylor, Councillor Kershaw.
Thank you for your question. All businesses have been involved in the consultation of the High Street Action Zone. Timings have been given. There is obviously going to be disruption on a scheme of this size. We were in town yesterday talking to businesses, and the vast majority of businesses are more than happy. We haven't even started work on the market place yet, but as we do, we will be planning to do it in sections, and businesses will be informed of the timings. Obviously, they are subject to weather and other issues, but this is a project to improve the footfall over time. I'm not going to talk about specific businesses, that would be indiscreet, but we have officers on the ground on a daily basis visiting businesses, discussing the issues, explaining if they're not sure after the consultation where people will be able to park, how they can drop off, the loading bay regulations that are coming back from the TRO. So yes, this is an ongoing and long project, and we'll carry on dealing with all the business we can to help them secure. There have been empty shops in the market square, and I'm happy to report that 2 of those have now had new owners take over. So the fact that this is going ahead has encouraged people to buy property. So I think we'll see in the long term a boost. It'll be a prouder place to be, and that if there may be some people that will, so we'll do what we can to help them. Thank you.
No, thank you very much for that. And I completely agree that in the long term, this will benefit the town, it will benefit the wider district as well. But I just want to absolutely make sure that them businesses which are struggling at the minute, they are supported through this process, and we keep talking to them as much as possible. Thank you.
Councillor Tom Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, thank you for the report. I wasn't at all bothered that it came electronically. I'd like to see more of the reports come electronically. At first glance, I thought this report's commendably short, but then reflection, I thought perhaps that's not a plus with regard to real growth in this district. It highlights the government support for the economy, the money that's been given out, government money, the county Go Digital scheme providing support, and what's been done in tourism as well. But there seems to be very little that's substantive from North Norfolk District Council on that. And last week I was at a presentation in Great Yarmouth given by the leader and chief executive about the real changes they've made in the past 2 to 3 years. The funding for the restoration of the Winter Gardens, the water centre with 3 swimming pools, the Third River crossing, the covered market to help small businesses survive. There's regeneration of buildings, money being put into listed buildings. So there's real regeneration being done. Their energy campus, and I'll come on to that very shortly. But what we're seeing is our neighbouring district, our neighbouring borough has real growth, and this district in the past 2 or 3 years does not have real growth. But one of the things they highlighted was attracting to their energy campus Equinor, which was of course previously in Norfolk District. So the loss of Equinor with 140 well-paid jobs affects not just Wells, but the area around about, the knock-on effect of well-paid jobs, spending money, spent using local suppliers.
Fitzpatrick, sorry, I'm very conscious of time. And
right, okay, I'll just finish. I'll just keep it very short. Say what has actually been done to find replacement jobs, quality jobs, to replace Equinor and actually bring prosperity to the west of the district, because nowhere can I see proper mention of the west of the district. So I'd like you to tell us what's actually been done, real jobs, quality jobs. Thank you.
Councillor Kershaw.
If that was one question, well, let me address the situation with Equinor. I think my feelings about Egmere are known. The actual facts that those jobs were lost were not down to any fact or fault of the North Norfolk District Council. As you're fully aware, Councillor Fitzpatrick, the sector is growing dynamically. The servicing of the offshore wind farms from Wells was not possible, as now the boats are coming from Great Yarmouth and they're hotel boats, not day boats. Maybe we should have been able to foresee that growth in industry before making the investment. We have been to visit Walsingham Estates on one occasion, and again to see the new director of Walsingham Estates on the 13th of May to try and help them fill that property, but it's not proving particularly easy. Apart from that, if other investments that have come in, you're probably aware of the site, the Citygate site in North Walsham, which has now got planning is going ahead with the builders merchants, which is quite large, which is bringing between 30 and 35 jobs. The hospitality sector, we've had some serious investment from the Chestnut Group with 5 different pubs across North Norfolk, and the sale of the Cliftonville to a new owner. These are bringing better jobs and upping the quality of hospitality, which is helping us with tourism and helping us extend the season amongst a few. And we are visiting now that we've been able to finish handing out the grants, to which I still congratulate my team. We are visiting more businesses. We are establishing a business hub to try and find out the specific needs of businesses and how we can help them with training and skills. I'm sorry my answer wasn't as long as your question.
Yes, Councillor Fitzpatrick.
It'd be very quick. Yeah, I mean, the point I was making about Equinor was the loss of 140 quality jobs. And I asked specifically what was being done to provide replacement quality jobs in the west of the district. And with all due respect, when I look at an atlas, I don't think North Walsham is in the west of this district. So it's really your answer of saying you're not providing jobs or doing anything to provide jobs in the west district, and that's fine. I'm quite happy with that answer being publicly minuted. Thank you.
No, I'm quite happy to answer that. You might have seen a chap by the name of John Travolta in Weatherspoons in Faken. This is all part of the high quality jobs that we're starting to provide in the film industry at West Raynham. I think that is in the west of the district, if I'm not mistaken.
Thank you. Right, owing to time, and we've all received the reports before the meeting, can I just ask for show of hands for any questions for the remaining cabinet members, and we'll take it that way as we've only got 2 minutes left. Councillor Pearce and Councillor Mancini-Boyle. Councillor Pearce first. Behind. Yeah.
Sorry for that little delay, Mr. Chairman. My question is for Lucy Shires on customer services. I'd like first, please, to ask what is our arrangements for looking after people that come into reception? Because I happened to come into the council offices 3 times over the last couple of weeks. And on each occasion, I saw elderly couples come in from outside villages seeking to have some information on planning applications. And they were told because they didn't have an appointment, they can't see anybody. Now, at the end of the day, then she said, why not try the internet? We haven't got the internet. Oh, you just got a phone. Now, there's 3 separate people from 3 separate villages came in to ask for help. And there was nobody in the planning department. They couldn't get to see anybody because they couldn't have an appointment. I'd like to know why, please. Thank you.
Councillor Shires.
Yeah, of course, I can't speak for the planning department. I'm really sorry about that. But there should have been a way for them to make an appointment with customer services.
They were told to ring back. They tried to get through and couldn't get through. Then all 3 of them were not on the net. So I can't blame them for that. But the fact is they journeyed in, and we are supposed to be a public facing organisation, helping our public, doing what we can for people of all age, race, colour, whatever you want to call it. And 3 times couples came in, I just happened to see it there, and they were told no appointment, no help. That ain't good enough.
Okay, well, it seems that you must have had further contact with them, Councillor Pearce, because you've talked about their entire journey. So I would ask that you could send me their contact details if they're happy for me to contact them, or you can send them my contact details to contact me directly and I'll investigate it. But I can't speak for planning officers not having appointments.
Sorry, that's not good enough. I didn't want to interfere with the conversations. I was there as a bystander coming on something else and I happened to overhear it. So I don't know who those three couples were, but I know that I saw them, and even the receptionist said, I'm sorry, I can't help, you've got to call. That's not good enough.
Councillor Pierce, as I note that Officer Fulcher is here, perhaps you'd like to approach him after the meeting as well to discuss that issue as it falls within planning remit. Thank you. We are out of time, but I will grace Councillor Mancini-Boyle and Councillor Hynek to ask questions if they're brief. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll try and be brief. Can I just show my fellow members this document? I think Paulie will recognise it. It's incredible. It's almost, well, it is 779 pages long. I brought it in to show everybody. When I was elected in 2019, I, along with other members, were given the choice of an iPad or laptop to use to read papers in the meetings and at home prior to the meetings. Why then are papers for meetings sent out to all members when we already have the expensive equipment and IT allowance provided by NMDC? Papers in front of me tonight were the papers for a meeting this week of 12 members and contains, as I've said, almost 800 pages in colour, I might add. Papers arrive in waterproof, single-use plastic envelopes at what must be an inordinate cost. This is the same for all meetings, including those bulky papers for planning meetings and full council. I would like to know the cost of the resource printing and putting these papers together, supplying the single-use plastic envelopes, the papers, the postage. And may I ask if this is why the Liberal Democratic administration increased council tax in February, in part for residents to fund this unnecessary service to our 40 members. Finally, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to remind everybody, we were the first council in Norfolk to declare a climate emergency. Well, actions speak louder than words, don't they? We clearly provide lip service to climate change. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Mancini-Boyle. Could I ask if you could put your question in writing to Councillor Toy? He's not here tonight. Thank you. And I can partially answer that question because I was chair of the committee when we decided that all planning policy meetings would have printed copies. I totally take your degree of the question around posting them in non-recyclables, and maybe they should be left here for those attending the meetings. Obviously, you are now coming out of COVID, so during COVID they were posted to us, but because of the complexity of the nature of those papers, it just wasn't practicable to work. And I'm fairly tech savvy, through an iPad, through a several 100-page document, and make notes. And several councillors, I'm sure, would support me on that. So whilst I partially understand your frustrations and concerns, the practicalities of that particular example, I think are sort of agreed with many councillors that that's the decision we took for print of that. And Councillor Grove-Jones.
Just to say that if any councillor doesn't wish to have paper copies, they don't have to have them. You can ask for your name to be removed from the list of paper copies to be sent out so that you can read them online.
That's fair enough, Madam Chair. I think my postman would be happy about that.
I think mine would have been too, but I think
but my point really is we can all read this online.
Okay, thank you. And finally, Councillor Hynek.
Yeah, I've got a question for Councillor Seward. I just wondered where the council was with delivering the £150 council tax rebate to help with rising fuel bills.
Thank you, Councillor Seward.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Can I thank Councillor Heinrich for his question? This is contained within the report, and I can confirm it's on page 89. The software is now being developed, and we are ready now to start in May. We are ready now to start in May, rolling out this program. The first rollout will be with customers that pay their council tax by direct debit, because we have the bank accounts. And that will be dispatched by BACS, and a letter of confirmation will also be sent. Customers that do not pay their council tax by direct debit will instead receive a letter directing them to the grant approval application portal, where they can formally make their claim, including their bank details, and following checks, payments will be dispatched by BACS. So I think for all councillors, and if they are approached by constituents wondering how they can claim this £150 rebate. If they're on direct debit, it will be sent to them automatically. If they're not, they need to make an application once they've received the letter. If they're struggling with the portal to do that, then they should make contact with customer services, and we can then see what we can do to make alternative arrangements. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Heinrich. Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Right, moving on, ladies and gentlemen, to item 9, which we've already covered because Councillor Rest's question was answered in Cabinet members. No other questions from members? Lovely. So moving on to item 10 on the agenda, which will be introduced by Councillor Mancini-Boyle as proposed. What I would like to ask is that when we take a vote on this, that it's done as a recorded vote, please. Could I have a seconder for that? Councillor Fitzpatrick, thank you. Councillor Mancini-Boyle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, again. Good evening, everybody. I have the motion I'm proposing before you in your papers regarding the County Council's business plan submission for a proposed Western Link. I do not intend to read the motion in full, but would like to add some background to the reasons I feel members should be compelled to support it. Firstly, although this stretch of road is not actually in North Norfolk, it most certainly would benefit residents, business and tourists across the whole of Norfolk, and this should not be forgotten. I've tested the current route to reach the Norfolk and Norwich Hospital. From where I live, I normally go backwards on the Broadland Northway to go forwards. I tried travelling on the same road, but in the opposite direction to where the vicinity of where the new Western Link is proposed. I was shocked that I had to travel through tiny, quaint villages with speed calming furniture everywhere. How can an ambulance get through this in a hurry to North Norfolk? Indeed, how can HGVs, tourists, and North Norfolk residents travel on these roads safely? The same could be said trying to reach the A11 or anywhere just off the A47. Now, regarding emissions, a vehicle travelling at a constant speed, not stop-starting, will result in less emissions. These villages are gridlocked a lot of the time. This will affect all of Norfolk residents, causing huge health issues and creating problems for children's health in the future. In supporting this, we were merely acknowledging that we want this urgent natural extension to the Broadland Northway built. More consultation will come forward as to the final route once the Secretary of State has made the decision on the funding. I have noticed the Liberal Democratic leader of this administration, whilst saying in the local press, his members have a free vote. As already stated, he will vote against. This, I feel, is prompting them to vote with him. Your fellow Liberal Democrat colleagues in Broadland and South Norfolk are supportive of this much needed road. Any member who votes against this motion could be accused of reverse NIMBYism, which is unusual because it would normally be the people living with it wouldn't want it and outsiders wouldn't care. This should be people before politics. Let us put people's lives and health at risk, let alone any desperately needed economic growth. Again, I repeat, please support this motion for the whole of Norfolk, because I bet you will all use it if it goes ahead. And as I'm confident, you'll use the Broadland Northway, which was controversial at the time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Mancini-Boyle. Councillor Fitzpatrick, you have the right to speak.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'll second the motion, but I will reserve the right to speak at the end of the debate. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll now open the floor for debate. Any councillors? Councillor Penfold.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, members. You may be pleased to know, Mr. Chairman, that I won't be reading you another tale of Tory terror this evening. Or you may be disappointed by that. But thank you for bringing this motion to us tonight, Councillor, but it's one that I won't be supporting. This is primarily because the motion asks this council to commit its support to something that it would be irresponsible to commit to at this stage. It asks North Norfolk District Council to, and I quote, pledge its full support for the construction of the Norwich Western Link dual carriageway. Please note, the motion specifies the construction of the road. It asks not for an in-principle pledge of support for the Norwich Western Link, but for a full pledge to support its construction. And it asks us to do this when the County Council itself, and indeed its cabinet, of which Councillor Fitzpatrick is a member, does not even know what those construction costs will be, nor does it know the timetable for completion. On the 25th of February 2022, the County Council sent out a news release to all county councillors, myself included. The news release went to town and parish councils and more widely across Norfolk. This news release focused on the Norwich Western Link's design, but contained no detail whatsoever on the overall project costs and timetable. The reason for this is that the overall costs and timetable are not known at this point. The news release stated, and I quote, "The council intends to provide more detail on project timescales and costs in June." And I again quote from a later section of the news release, "The council intends to provide further detail on the route and project costs at the cabinet meeting on June the 7th. Councillor Martin Wilby, cabinet member for highways, was quoted in the news release as saying, "We intend to provide more detail in June." So it's abundantly clear that the County Council does not know how much this road is going to cost, nor does it yet have a timetable for its construction. Serious questions need to be raised, therefore, about its overall viability. Can the County Council afford its 15% contribution to the overall project costs, which were originally estimated at £185 million, but which will undoubtedly be higher than that when it comes to the update we are waiting for in June? Will the road cost another 30 million or another 40 million or who knows what on top of the original £185 million? And is Councillor Mancini Boyle confident that the County Council can afford this? If he is, then he has a crystal ball that no one else here or at county seems to have access to. Indeed, the Conservative leader of South Norfolk District Council commented recently that the County Council has maxed out its credit card. So this motion is set against a backdrop of a county council with its own financial woes, a government contribution to the road that is not yet secured, and soaring material, transport and fuel costs. If the government contribution does not come in, what is the plan B? I think, therefore, that this motion is naive and premature. It's emotive, but it's not strong or convincing. Critically, despite what we might think of the pros and cons of the road itself, it asks this Tier 2 authority to commit its support to a major infrastructure project being delivered by a Tier 1 authority, when that Tier 1 authority itself does not even know what the actual construction costs will be, nor does it know the timetable for construction. And these won't be known until at least June, and maybe not even then. As I said previously, this motion is not asking this council for its in-principle support. It's asking it to pledge its full support for the construction of the Norwich Western Link. So it would, I believe, be highly irresponsible of North Norfolk District Council to vote in support of constructing a road, the costs of which are not even known to the authority wanting to build it. I therefore cannot support this motion as it is worded and as it stands tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Penfold. I've just been corrected on a order of proceedings, and apologies. I should have gone to Councillor Adams first as right to reply from the group leaders.
Thank you, Chairman. I personally don't wish to respond any further, so I won't be supporting the motion. I thank the members for bringing it to the council. I feel it's helpful to have the debate, although I don't feel it is an issue that we can really provide a strong steer on, you know, not being in North Norfolk. I was disturbed to see some sort of promise really within the motion that the Western Link would solve the problems with the ambulance service. I certainly wouldn't go that far. We know the issues with queuing ambulances. This is a significant issue, and it would be wrong to claim that the Western Link will solve that. What more can I say? That's my feelings really in a nutshell. I am concerned about the costs escalating. That's for all Norfolk ratepayers, and I feel that actually people that have been long time supporters of the Western Link, the Western extension, are starting to reflect on that now because of those costs and the deliverability of the project. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, go to Councillor Rest as the other independent group leader, if there's anything to say.
At this present moment, I'll make no other comment. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go through in order the people who've kindly put their hands up and waited. So Councillor Spagnola.
Well, I'm just going to add on to my leader. As a member of HOSC, we have discussed the ambulance times a number of times. It's not been with any progress, to be completely honest. I find it unfair for the ambulance waiting times to be used as an argument to support this uncosted road. Councillor Holiday will be also aware that the delays for our hardworking paramedics will not be solved by the building of a 3-mile stretch of road. Our outstretched hospitals need more investment to help them reduce the amount of time our ambulances are waiting for patients to be handed over. And I think that's where the crux lies.
Thank you. Councillor Fitch-Tillett was next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Difficult one, this one for me. As many of you know, I spent a considerable amount of time in logistics, and I fully support the fact that we do need this road. And I do like all the bullet points that have been listed within this motion. However, like Councillor Penfold, I do believe we are premature. Look back at when we had the construction of the NDR, now they called the Broadland North Rail. They needed additional funding. It was not delivered on budget. I do not think, with all honesty, I can support this motion until it is clear that it has been properly costed, it has been properly funded, and we've got a better idea of when it's going to be delivered.
Thank you. Councillor Blathwayt.
Just a quick word of advice for Councillor Mancini Boyle. I use the same road as he does to go to the hospital at Norfolk and Norwich, and my sat-nav says turn left, and that is by far the quickest way. And I would say it's slightly very strange to turn right, because he must have added hours to his journey. I really suggest you get a new sat-nav.
Thank you. Sorry.
I probably go to Lidl on the way, actually, so.
Councillor Cushing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Some parties have a vision for Norfolk where they want everyone to get out of their cars, a vision for sustainable bus services across Norfolk and only roads. This is not a vision for Norfolk, but for Norwich city centre. Norfolk cannot be compared to London. Many people rely on their cars. Does anyone think that not building the Norwich Western Link will make vehicles vanish from our roads? Of course not. Studies have shown that without the Norwich Western Link, traffic will increase. Holiday traffic will continue to pass through these villages to get to the Norfolk coast. This means that more vehicles travelling through small, low-speed roads unsuitable for heavy traffic. This increases pollution, increases speeding, has a detrimental impact on residents' well-being and wildlife. Norwich Western Link will open up areas for residents to walk, cycle and enjoy the environment which they've not been able to access in the past. New habitats will be made, including new ponds, hedgerows and natural grasslands. Those living in the areas affected by increased traffic on a daily basis want this road built. Now I can see Councillor Penfold looks aghast at those words. Actually, they're not mine. They're the words taken from a speech by Councillor Sharon Blundell, Deputy Leader of the South Norfolk Liberal Democrats. A similar motion was voted, as Councillor Mancini Boyle mentioned, by South Norfolk, and actually was the same one by Broadland District Council. All the Liberal Democrats in both of those groups supported it unanimously. I also say I used to live in Taven for a long while, and I used to work for a number of years at Broadland Business Park. So I had to use the rat runs that go from Taven right the way through Ringland, through Longwater Lane to get there and spent many hours there. I mean, it's absolute nightmare. It's a nightmare to just sit in that traffic morning, day and out. Quite dangerous in many respects as well. And it must be awful for people living all around it. And picking up Councillor Blathwaite, well, if you're coming from Fakenham trying to get to the Norfolk and Norwich, actually you don't go through the Northern Distributor Road. You actually have to go to Lenway, a village called Lenway, to get through to the A47. That's a road which ambulances use. You go, that road actually has literally 90-degree turns on it to show how bad it actually is. So anything that's done to actually, if that road was there, it would certainly, whatever else, certainly increase the times it would take from ambulances to get to and from, certainly in the western part of the district. Certainly also believe that it will be a strong boost for businesses in our area. It'll improve connectivity, as the motion actually says, and make speed of times. I think also improve road safety considerably. I know that the county council is looking to the government to see what financial support they can give in order to help the road get built. But I have absolutely no doubt it will be a huge benefit for the whole of Norfolk. So I would implore the Liberal Democrats there to ignore the advice from Councillor Penfold, ignore the advice from their leader, and to join their colleagues in South Norfolk, Broadland, and vote for this motion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Blathwaite, did you have a reply?
Yeah, just a quick response. In my ward, the ambulances go to Galston, and I believe in the west of the area, Councillor Cushing's ward, they go to Queen Elizabeth II. So at King's Lynn. So sorry, I failed to see the asset for.
Mr. Chairman, you will know that some go to King's Lynn, some go to Norwich, and actually I tell them it's Councillor Blathwaite. My mother was recently taken to Norwich from Norwich, so that's entirely correct.
Thank you, Councillor Vincent Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This road gives considerable public benefit, or this road, if built, when built, sorry, I'll be positive. When built, this will give considerable public benefit. That's a bit nebulous, so let's make public benefit more personal. Let's get personal with this. If I were ill, if I'd been taken ill, if I'd fallen off the roof of a house and I was put in the back of an ambulance, I know which type of road I'd rather travel on as a dangerously sick patient. I'd rather travel on a road that was made for vehicles, that I could have a reasonably smooth journey, rather than roads that were made for horse and carts, and not, sort of, and in the kind of older roads, the ambulance would stop, shake me around, turn corners, possibly not the best patient experience. But let's be less melodramatic and think of every day. Quite often I work in Norwich and I live near Fakenham, and my journey to Norwich, it's impossible by bus because it'd take me about 3 hours to get there. I'd arrive at 11 o'clock. I'd have to leave at 3:30, and I don't think any employer would particularly be keen on me doing that. So I drive when I go to Norwich. And what do? I resort to the rat runs. So I'm afraid I'm one of these hundreds of guilty people that are actually impinge on the quality of other people's lives, because my car is braking, cornering, accelerating, through people's little villages, probably annoying to a great extent. And of course, things like the traffic speed control, that causes a lot more pollution, be it dust kicked up from the road, be it carbon dioxide when I accelerate. So if I could get to Norwich without going through rat runs, without going through the centre of Norwich, that improves the lives of lots of people. And quite honestly, I think we're here to improve the lives of people. That's why I think this council should support this motion and support the ultimate building of this road that will give considerable public benefit to the residents of Norfolk. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fitzpatrick. Councillor Lloyd was next on my list.
Thank you, Chair. I too think this is a really premature and badly written motion. And I'll tell you why. Has the route been secured yet? No. Has the funding been secured for this road yet? No. Why on earth would a council end a freeway in the middle of a housing estate in the first place? Absolute nonsense. And they've failed people of North Norwich in that respect, Northwest Norwich. Emissions, there's no data in here. What there is data on is that more roads equal more emissions, equal more cars. So I'd like to see some data to back up the emissions, and you won't be surprised if I'm into low emissions. You heard me talk about it here, and I'll be more happy to support it if I could see some data. And finally, just to end, the same with ambulances. I'd like to see some data on ambulances. All I ever hear about with ambulance delays are actually transferring people from the ambulance into A&E in hospitals. It's not the journey time. And I would remind people that the A47 is still there. There was an inner ring road in Norwich and an outer ring road, which I use regularly as well. But so this is to me, it's about a daft motion. It's premature. If the funding comes together and they finally decide on a route, then sure. Finally, I would say that the leader of the Norfolk County Council has not got a huge track record in listening to NNDC. So a letter to him, I don't think will be the deciding factor in this case. So it's a poorly written motion, it's premature, and I will not be supporting it for those reasons.
Thank you, Councillor Lloyd. Councillor Brown was next.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the result of this motion, if we were to support it, would be basically to send a signal to the leader of Norfolk County Council to sign what is in effect a blank cheque to support the construction, because that's what the carefully worded motion in that respect at any rate states, that we are being asked to support construction. Now, the previous administration may be quite comfortable and may have made a regular practice in this district of signing blank cheques, but it's not something that this administration is willing to do and is very enthusiastic about doing. Instead, what I would say to our leader is, if there is a letter to go to the leader of Norfolk County Council, that they might revisit the question of whether they should declare a climate change emergency, and and perhaps they bring it to a cabinet meeting in future. And when they do, that they put it on the agenda quite prominently up front and centre, so that when they reach that item on the agenda, unlike last time, they don't adjourn, go to lunch and never come back and actually debate the motion, which is quite disgraceful and is a disservice to the residents in this county. Quite appalling, really, as a procedure. So for that reason, and the reasons that previous speakers have mentioned, that this is premature, I will not be supporting this motion either.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Shires. Yes, Councillor. Sorry.
Put the question, basically.
Okay, yeah, well, I am allowed to open the floor for debate. Yeah, okay, so you're proposing, do you have a seconder to go to the vote now?
I'm happy to second that after I seconded the motion.
Yeah, okay. So there's nobody else willing to Councillor Fitzpatrick, you seconding the motion to go to a vote now? Okay, those in favour? Yeah, those against? So thank you, Councillor Hayman, but at this time, unfortunately, that motion fails. It was 11 and 19. Yeah, okay, so we've got 5 minutes left. There's 3 more councillors to speak, and Councillor Mancini-Boyle and Councillor Fitzpatrick left. Okay, so Councillor Shires, I believe, was next. Thank you.
Thank you. It's quite interesting to be stopped speaking in the chamber here. I've experienced that elsewhere, but I've never experienced it here. I just really wanted to send a very clear message to our paramedic and hospital teams who have spoken quite openly over the difficulties they're facing and the difficulties they're facing turning their response times around. And I feel like it's really unfair that we're going to pledge that a 3-metre strip of road, as my colleague has said, is going to improve this. The longest response time recorded in the most recent set of data I've got is 21 hours and 57 minutes. There is absolutely nothing that this stretch of road will do to change that. We have an underfunded system. And I am sick of hearing sob stories from across the chamber to try and pluck at the heartstrings of people when we have got hardworking NHS staff that are struggling. They are in a critical measure, and that is not fair.
Councillor Grove-Jones.
Sorry, I was miles away. I just wanted to point out 2, 3 things very quickly. We are a rural area and we have rural roads which are going to be slow. Unfortunately, the cart and horse was there before the car, and the cart and horse roads are still being used today. There is a sequential increase in traffic, which I think this was mentioned before, as new roads open. So the more roads you open, the more traffic it attracts and the more congested they become. And just to finally finish, look at the M25. That was opened to relieve all the traffic that wanted to go around London, and look at it now.
Thank you.
Sorry, I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you, Councillor Grove-Jones. I'd like to have a turn for once. So,
Well done, Jeremy.
whilst I'm not in objection in per se for the Western Link, as it does seem a bit farcical that we've got 3/4 of the way around Norwich and then suddenly stopped, I find it a bit strange that ambulance response time is going to miraculously change. How is this 3-mile stretch of road going to change the up to, as Councillor Shires has said, regularly number of hours wait for the ambulance to get to the person's house in the first place, and then the wait at the other end of the hospital? I don't see how this bit correlates. When we talk about speedier access for North Norfolk to the A11, I live in the western half of North Norfolk, or as Councillor Fitzpatrick likes to refer to it, as the forgotten part of North Norfolk. And I certainly wouldn't use the Western link. I would use the current cut through through Lenwade anyway. In regards to reducing CO2 emissions, we've talked earlier about start-stopping of cars. Again, there's such high-level detail around this Western link. I sincerely hope it's not like the Northern link, where I continuously have to stop at roundabouts, which is increasing the emissions. And we also talk about road safety and unsuitable roads. A number of times the Northern bypass has now been referred to as unsuitable because of the lane configurations and the significant number of accidents that have been happening on it. So providing everything's in order in principle, I think it's a good suggestion to support such a link. However, the detail here is lacking somewhat, but that's all I have to say on that. Thank you. So we'll go to Councillor Fitzpatrick Tom, I think next. Is that the right order? Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'll just tackle, I wasn't going to mention response times because this is not about ambulance response times. This is about getting to hospital, a different thing entirely. When you're in an ambulance or being driven to hospital, it's critical you get there quickly. This will speed it up. This will speed it up. This will speed it up by 20 to 22 minutes from where I represent in North Norfolk. And also, Councillor Blathwaite said everyone goes to Kings Lynn. Well, they don't. They go to Kings Lynn sometimes. They go to Norfolk and Norwich sometimes. Indeed, depending on what it is, they could be taken to Cambridge or they could be taken to Essex by ambulance, depending on the type of injury or the type it is. So, but I'll come back to that anyway. Yeah, I supported county. I support this continuation. But indeed, at county, when I was first elected, I supported the building of what's now the Northern Broadway, the Southern Bypass. Sorry, if anyone wants, so I'm quite happy to wait till people have a chat and then I'll continue, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman, or should I be with the courtesy of speaking my own? Thank you. The Northern Broadway, as it now is called, was built by the Rainbow Alliance. That was a Labour, Lib Dem, UKIP and Independent alliance. And at the time this was done, I was the leader of the Conservatives and the County Council, and we supported that wholeheartedly because we didn't play at politics. This is too important. This was too important and still remains too important. We can do semantics about how much it will cost. Yeah, there's a route, and the route will vary. The route will change as it's surveyed. That happens in every piece of road building. It also happens sometimes you build houses that you have to come back and take it elsewhere. The question of emissions, at the moment, it will take people out of Norwich. And in Norwich, there are huge complaints for the air quality. But as we go down the line in the years to come, the cars going around Norwich, bringing people to North Norfolk will be electric cars. So the pollution argument rather goes out the window. The existing Broadland Northway gives substantial benefits to places like Cromer and so on, bringing tourism, bringing goods, bringing people round Norwich and bringing to the north part of the county, but it does not bring it to the west part of this district. So finishing this link will stop rat running through villages. Yeah, I accept they're not in North Norfolk, but they're part of that Norfolk family. Rat running through an area of outstanding natural beauty is it's actually going to have a viaduct over that. It will support the existing jobs, and it's anyone that doesn't think the economic challenges to rural areas without good transport links is going to get worse in the next 3 to 5 years is living somewhere other than North Norfolk. Emergency services, every minute's critical. Every minute's critical getting people to hospital. Say the day will come with the electric cars. People will use those. People in this county use cars. It's not palatable, but my colleague in my left, my sibling in my left even said, trying to get to Norwich by public transport, even if it's enhanced, it just is slow journeys. So the route will change, but this road, the existing Broadland Northway benefits. It takes all the signs you see to Cromer. Well, I'd like to see something that benefits Fakenham, Walsingham, and the west part of this district, because it's really important that we bring tourism, we bring jobs, and that we make sure the transport links are in place for existing jobs so that they don't think of relocating elsewhere with escalating fuel costs. So I'm saying, please don't play politics in this. Your colleagues elsewhere in the districts, the funding is a county matter. No one's asking people of North Norfolk to put their hands in their pocket. No one's asking this council to put its hand in its pocket. What we're asking is that there is support shown by this council for something which will materially benefit the western part of North Norfolk. So please don't play politics. Let's just do the right thing. Vote to improve. Sorry, I don't interrupt other people, so I'd be grateful if I was shown the same courtesy. Let's do it for the good of North Norfolk, for the good of the western part of North Norfolk, supporting existing jobs, improving jobs, please support this motion and show that North Norfolk is capable of supporting it the way the other districts in Norfolk have done, and don't do what's done in Norwich, play party politics with people's lives and people's livelihoods. Thank you.
Councillor Fitzpatrick, thank you. We're now on to the second to final part. Councillor Mancini Boyle for summing up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be very, very brief. I think Tom's Councillor Fitzpatrick's summed up pretty much all that my thoughts are. And I do listen to what people are saying. I know this isn't the final route. I know that the money, there's no money anywhere, but I suspect at some point this will go through. Money will come from somewhere. I don't know where, but I'm sure it will. But the most important thing here really is when I drive around North Norfolk, the thing that shocks me the most, you're quite happy to build hundreds and hundreds of houses everywhere. And then all those houses have cars, but the infrastructure doesn't support what is there. Now, when somebody's putting forward a motion for putting some infrastructure in which will help everybody in the area, I'm so surprised you don't at least acknowledge it's a good idea at least. You're all just saying, no, I'm not having it. And I bet you in my lifetime that will go in and you'll all use it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So we'll move to the recorded vote and I'll hand over to the monitor officer now.
Thank you. I'll go through members' names alphabetically. Please say for, against or abstain. Councillor Adams.
Against.
Councillor Bevan-Jones. Councillor Birch. Councillor Blathwaite.
Against.
Councillor Brown.
Against.
Councillor Pierre Butikofer. Councillor S. Butikofer.
Against.
Councillor Cushing.
For.
Councillor Dixon. Councillor Fitch-Tillett. Councillor Fisher.
Against.
Councillor T. Fitzpatrick.
For.
Councillor V. Fitzpatrick.
For.
Councillor Gay. Councillor Grove-Jones.
Against.
Councillor Hayman. Councillor Heinink. Councillor Holiday. Councillor Kershaw.
Against.
Councillor Lloyd. Councillor Mancini Boyle.
For.
Councillor Pearce.
For.
Councillor Penfold.
Against.
Councillor Punchard.
Abstain.
Councillor Rest. Councillor Seward. Councillor Shires. Councillor Spagnola.
Against.
Councillor Stenton.
For.
Councillor Taylor. Councillor Vardy. Councillor Varley. Councillor Withington. I make it 10 for, 20 against and 3 abstentions.
So Councillor Mancini Boyle, that motion fails. Moving on to item 11, notices of motion. Don't believe we have any. No need to exclude the public press and no private business. And thank you all for being so kind in my last council meeting as chairman. Thank you. Thank you. Done.